as moderator, I would like to be a bit provocative. I don't know what 2.77 lakh crore means in terms. This is the amount of farm subsidies India gave to farmers in 2019-2020. We know this is a big controversial issue. Every day I read with protests, and it embeds what we call a vicious cycle in the system, because it seems that subsidies in India include free power, water, heavily subsidized fertilizer, interest subventions on loans, discounted premium. So what is it? You clearly made the economic case, but for me what is important is the political case of dismantling this labyrinth of subsidies and vested interests. What will be the game changer, not in Andhra Pradesh, which is like the best pupil, but in the rollout in the number of states you mentioned in your concluding remarks? And how is the central government in India looking at this model? So, yeah. and then colleagues, if you want to chip in with other questions, please use the chat and I will give you the floor. We have around 10-15 minutes. So over to you, Vijay.
Leonard, we have to work smartly. I can't go headlong and say remove the subsidies. I don't believe in that. I am telling the government that this helps farmers' livelihoods. So please invest in this for the sake of farmers' livelihoods, for people's health, and for soil health. The reduction in subsidy is a byproduct of the transformation. The farmer doesn't buy chemical fertilizers, automatically subsidy will come down. If the farmer is using less water, automatically the electric subsidy will come down. So I'm not saying that remove the subsidy. I'm saying let it be there. How does it matter? First, let us make the change. So I also believe in a tipping point. See, people believe me now because I have reached 10% farmers. So in India, if another 2, 3, 4 states join me, then the national policy will change. So otherwise it remains a theory. It is one theory against another theory. So I am a very practical man. So I'm not a theoretical man. So I believe my action should show results, which in turn enables dismantling of subsidy. I don't know if I make sense.
Very clear, Vijay. Yes, pragmatism between political reality as well. I see Durso Giuseppina from Eswatini asking, I'll cluster the questions. How many people can live on 1 hectare managed in natural farming? And then Omole from another delegation asks, how has climate resilient agriculture affected food pricing in the local market? And from Morocco, how do you intend to convince your federal government when it seems that the prevailing motto is more productivity? You replied a bit to this question, but how do you reconcile heavy productivity increases with this model? So three questions bundled in terms of size and also of food pricing in local markets.
Yeah, I'll just say that there have been so many innovations in the program. One of the most important innovation is in dryland agriculture, semi-arid areas, where even one crop was a risky proposition. Our breakthrough, and thanks to Walter, in harnessing water from the air, we are able to take 3 crops. So this answers the question of total production. There's absolutely, no question of any food shortages, nutrition shortages, but also raises the question of how farmers can subsist on 1 hectare. If farmers are able to adopt our practices, we are now trying to see that their livelihoods around 1 hectare can be reasonably comfortable. But then, they also get into livestock, they get into agroforestry. So this is, if they're making profits in agriculture, they then diversify. They move into livestock, so they move into value addition. So 1 hectare, if you unlock, if you make it profitable, then people's intelligence takes over. They then, figure out how to maximize other things. We believe that it's a reasonably comfortable way of life if we are able to optimize their practices. It is knowledge intensive, Leonard. It doesn't happen overnight. So it takes 3, 4, 5 years for them to take it up. Climate resilient agriculture, the food prices, I'm not able to get the question right, but there is no great difference in the food prices because farmers are happy with some normal premium, 5%, 10% at the farm gate. So this feeds into the local economy, so local value chains. So there is no great disruption of the pricing on account of this. On influencing federal government, I'm happy to report that within the national government also, we are having many allies. The Niti Aayog itself is pushing for this in all the states. We have the Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Social Justice, Ministry of Environment. So there are, we know that we are up against many vested interests or, people who are opposed to this, but we also have champions. So I think I don't know how to put it, but it is success on ground which convinces people to change. Otherwise, it's all theoretical. It's one theory versus another theory. So if I'm able to get more states to join hands, then the momentum on policy change also happens.
Thanks, Vijay. Then questions around women and labor, the labor component of women. I see this question from Helena at Wageningen. How does agroecology mean? What does agroecology mean for the labor burden of women? Because there is a strong component which might not be costed. We speak about gender transformations, but the question of costing the time and the opportunity cost of that labor component. And then, is this something which is self-sufficiency, subsistence, or a vision for local to regional and beyond? So what is the potential of this model on exportability of it? Let's speak about regional markets, maybe not international, but can this model be sustainable from local to regional to international?
I'm very sure that it is a very sustainable model. And I can also, I'm very convinced that there are really no alternatives for us to come out of the current situation. The conventional agriculture is leading us to a vicious cycle. So that is clearly not a solution. We need alternatives. And we believe very firmly, of course, we still need more science, but we believe very firmly that this is perhaps the best option the world has. That is my belief, of course, open to challenge. But coming to the women's participation, Leonard, all women, they tell me whether they are working in the field or doing the farming, they say our health has improved. We are not handling hazardous chemicals in our work. And as Satyavati mentioned in the video, okay, even if you have to work hard, how does it matter? So yes, there is a it's more labor intense in the beginning, but what we also find, Leonard, is that over a period of time, it becomes actually a do nothing farming, because we have situations in the second year or third year where the farmers do not have to plow the land, so the cost is out. There is no weeding, so weeding cost is out, no irrigation, and no pesticide. So bulk of the cost will be only for seeding and harvesting and getting money every week. So I think it's a very pleasurable way of making money. So nature is doing the work. It depends on how smart, how you do this agriculture. So if you allow the billions of microbes, the butterflies, the bees, birds to do your work, the animals, then you do less work. So it teaches you that our synergy with nature. So I'm very sure this kind of work is preferred by our women and men on account of health, but with passage of time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it also reduces the labor component very significantly. We're able to see that.
Vijay, Alexander, and this is a topic which probably will feature also later on in the discussion today. Alexander Muller asks, are we measuring all products and services? The question of measurability. Is this really something which is tight, which is robust in terms of costings? Because we are often asked and sort of challenged whether these costings are realistic or not, whether they are actually estimating the true cost of production.
No, I mean, that I will defer to Alexander because he is the expert. But I can assure you that the benefits have to be measured properly, and the costs of the chemical agriculture also have to be measured properly, because we are not taken into account the true value. Absolutely right. I mean, Alexander is absolutely right in that. And so but I just want to say that even on the basis of incomplete costing, it is still much more favorable than the conventional. So if you take all the benefits, then it will be infinitely more, advantageous than the conventional farming. But I would defer to Alexander on that. I fully agree with what he's saying.
And last question from Malawi. So I see the need of biostimulants for the soil, which will require availability of livestock dung and urine. This may be a challenge for smallholders with no or very limited livestock. This is the case in Malawi. How do you handle it in Andhra Pradesh?
Oh, I think this is a very important question. I want to mention that we don't require large quantities. The recommendation in traditional agriculture was for about 15 tons of cow dung or farmyard manure per hectare. But we are not using the organic input as a fertilizer. They are just biostimulants. We require it in very small quantities. So we don't require 15 tons. We require 1 ton over 3 seasons. That 15 tons was for 1 season. So every country has more than enough cattle to, if you switch to this concept of biostimulants, because typically 1 cow can actually help about 10 acres of land, 10 to 15 acres of land. So it's a very important thing, because people think that organic cultivation means you have to use more of organic inputs. That is not the case with natural farming or regenerative agriculture. We believe that there are enough minerals in the soil, in the crop residues, in the air. What is missing is soil biology. And I'm also conscious that I'm encroaching into Walter and Ravi's subject, but there is a distinction, Leonard, that I would like to mention to all the colleagues, that you don't require huge quantities of organic inputs, because even that is going to be a problem if you want to scale up. And finally, after 4 or 5 years, even the need for biostimulants comes down. And that's what our farmers are reporting. Because if you have crops throughout the year and soil biology is optimal, then you really don't need biostimulants also. It's a transition period, because the soil biology has been so depressed. You need that biology to come back to a optimal size. So I don't think one should worry about the cattle. I'm sure Malawi will have enough cattle if you follow a biostimulant approach. If you follow an approach saying that I need 15 tons for every hectare for every crop, then obviously no country in the world can practice organic agriculture. And that is the breakthrough here. The breakthrough is to use very little of these organic inputs, and that too to catalyze, trigger soil biology. Thank you, Leonard. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay. I think we can conclude on this point. First of all, I know that there are other questions, and Ellen, yes, go ahead. We can circulate them to other panelists because there will certainly be overlaps, and I would say this will enrich the debate. But Vijay, if you were to just in one sentence or in one phrase synthesize, what would be your take-home recommendation from a pure Indian perspective? Okay, you spoke about getting other states buy-in, because this will clearly have a bit of pressure on the federal government. And in the donor community, where do you see the gaps? I think you followed also a bit COP in the past week. Where do you see the gaps in what you are saying across the international community, and what would you like to see from the donor community?
Oh, very big question, and asking me to submit in one sentence is unfair. But Leonard, I feel that every country, there are champions on ground who are doing the work. So I would, rather than the COPs, rather than all these discussions, I would request the international community to look closer at home. Every country has champions, small scale, large scale. So if you can multiply the champions, if the donor money, if the government money can go to, in Malawi, who are the champions on ground who are advocating these solutions, how do we multiply them? And that is where, I really respect Azim Premji philanthropy. They saw this as a huge opportunity that it is doable. So can the donors look at all such cases in the world and have a coalition of champions rather than talkers, blah, 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 as Greta said. So can we have champions who don't talk, but are actually working on ground? So I would really request EC, if that could be a good task, that bringing all the, not the talkers, but those who walk the talk, please bring them together, create a critical mass of champions, and solutions will automatically come. And these are solutions good for the planet, good for livelihoods, good for health, and more important, good for government, good for the government exchequer. So you can't have more wins than this. Over to you, Lino.